Hello YouTube and welcome back to World of Warships with Wadres, and today's video is showcasing basically the culmination of my efforts in trying to figure out the new aircraft carrier mechanics in the 8.0 patch. Now, this is me in the Midway, in co-op, and this is probably one of the most hair-raising matches I have had in a long time, and in the later stages of the match, you'll kind of start to see what I mean. However, let me kind of start out by explaining where I ended up, or how I ended up in this match in the first place. First off, I started because I knew I was not going to be comfortable with any of the aircraft carrier mechanics starting off. So first thing I did after the patch, after I finished a bunch of ship upgrades and purchases and whatnot, I went and I picked up the Langley, which, yeah, I will admit is the awkward starting point of the American aircraft carrier line in more ways than one. Let's just say that didn't really go very well, and partly because the Langley, while it does have some nice aircraft, the torpedo drops are single torpedoes, for one thing, so your targeting reticle for the torpedoes really is not that effective at actually showing where your torpedoes are going. On top of the fact that at that tier, the attack fighters, the bombers, are actually substantially more effective. Torpedoes really aren't that big a thing quite yet in the game, and the fact that you only have squadrons of 3 aircraft dropping 1 torpedo each just makes it that much more difficult. You're actually wasting more time trying to figure out torpedoes at tier 4 than you are anything else. So after I finished off that one battle with the Langley, just to kind of at least get myself into the swing of the aircraft control itself, I sold the Langley and I picked up the Ranger. And that's where things started getting interesting. The Ranger has slightly larger squadrons, slightly better aircraft, and at that point it was much better for figuring out the mechanics and getting used to the torpedo drops and whatnot, especially the amount of time it takes to actually initiate torpedo runs. After a few matches of that, and after I was comfortable with torpedoes, bomb drops are still kind of iffy on my part, but I think that's just something that's going to work itself out more over time than anything else. But the torpedo runs, those were the ones that I really wanted to figure out, because those are the ones that take a lot more planning, if I have to say so. You really have to start way out in order to carry out good torpedo runs. But after playing a few rounds in the Ranger, I upgraded to the Saipan, and that basically took over as being my experience with the Tier 8 jump, I guess you could say. Aside from the fact that the Saipan only has Tier 10 aircraft as opposed to the Tier 8s, it gets the Tier 8 matchmaking, so I got to experience Tier 8 to Tier 10 AA without having to go all the way in on a Tier 10 carrier. And I did several matches in that, which I may post later on just to kind of show where I was starting off a little bit, and how much more I've improved, to say the least. But it was kind of hit and miss for a little bit, if you'll excuse the pun. It really made life interesting to try it out, but I got the feel for the Tier 10 torpedo runs and all of that, and that was the big thing. So I actually had some good experience getting the Saipan going and moving and just getting used to the mechanic. Especially, again, setting up the more difficult torpedo runs at the higher tiers. And late last night, I decided, you know what? My commander, who is the 17-point commander, I had respected for the Langley, then I respected for the Ranger, and now I've taken advantage of the respec again, and I decided to bump him up to the Midway and see how I did. And my first match in the Midway, this was the result. This match that you're watching right now. And oh boy, is it a doozy. I am definitely glad that I took the time to jump down to the lower tiers before trying this, because if I had been stuck on the lower tiers, oh my god, this match would have been so terrible. It's still something of a shit show to watch looking back on it, but wow, this is I would have not had any clue of what I was doing, and I would have just completely ended up throwing this match. However, one of the things that I will say regarding co-op in the 8.0 server right now, I want to know, I seriously want to know whose idea it was to replace aircraft carriers on the bot team with equal tier battleships. I really want to know, because I would love to give them a piece of my mind. The equal tier battleships, I mean, okay, maybe I can see that at like tier 6, tier 8, maybe, but at tier 10, at the tier 10 bracket, equal tier battleships are by no means, absolutely no means, equal to an aircraft carrier. I mean, sure, over the course of this match, I am going to get stellar damage, but it's also a bit of a unique scenario in that regard as well, because of what I end up having to do to save the match, for lack of a better term. My friendly Hakuryu is certainly doing his best, but I think he's doing a lot of panic drops and short time drops, and yeah, I think he decided to just jump into tier 10 and try to figure everything out, while I have actually gone back and refined my tactics instead of going straight to top tier. But yeah, anyway, that aside, the way equal tier battleships at tier 10, if you were replacing one aircraft carrier, that would be one thing. And this is where I kind of have to go into one of the other issues. I can understand the 2 aircraft carrier limit for random battles. You've got 12 players there, two battleships, two ships. That's one thing in random battles. But in co-op matches, oh my god, that's a quarter of the team. One full quarter of the team. Ouch. On top of that, you're taking something that has very iffy performance at least at this point, where people are just getting the hang of the aircraft carriers, and they have really no idea what they're doing. This is new to everybody, except for the people who were in the public test servers. And they're replacing these ships with battleships. So they're replacing a quarter of the team with battleships. And ships that are substantially more powerful or substantially stronger than the ships that they're replacing in the first place, if I'm being perfectly honest. So, ouch. Just ouch. 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 Again, I really want to know whose idea that was, because I don't think they were thinking. Honestly, if it had been me, I would have substituted equal tier cruisers before I substituted equal tier battleships. At least those are more equivalent in the armor schematics, if nothing else. But when you're talking when you're talking replacing with equal tier battleships, that's anything from the tech lines as well. That could be German, American, Japanese battleships. I mean, Lord help you if the Hakuryu gets replaced with a friggin' Grosser Kurfürst. I mean, oh my god, the armor on that thing? There is no equivalence there. I could see being replaced with a Hindenburg. I could see it being replaced with a Rune or even a Des Moines. But a battleship, a Kurfürst, a Montana? No way in hell. And why do I even say the cruisers? Because the cruisers are also equivalent in the health pools. You're taking a ship that's 71,000, 78,000, maybe even as much as 80,000 hit points, and replacing it with something that has 92 or 100,000 hit points. Foul? Really, really foul, and I'm sure the rest of the teams agree with me, because just ouch, on top of the sheer amount of firepower that battleships have in their single round alpha strike that the carriers no longer have. So yeah, I can rant on that for quite an extensive amount of time. But beyond that, once I started figuring out what I was doing with the aircraft carriers, I started having a better feel for the rework. Don't take this the wrong way. I still prefer the RTS version. I probably will prefer the RTS version for a long time coming. I thought it was, again, far more exemplary of the aircraft carrier lines than the rework style. However, I'm feeling a little bit better about the rework now that I've had to play it with the patch release. It's not something that I would have wanted at all in the first place, but I will agree that it is far more exciting, far more dynamic. But by comparison, this match also shows the other thing. My gaming preferences do not seek this kind of psychological trauma from trying to complete a match in an aircraft carrier. I mean, sure, the RTS still had its fair share of hair-raising moments, but they could be short-lived depending on how you played your cards. This is just above and beyond. So demanding, so nerve-wracking, trying to actually make sure I get my strikes in, trying to defend the friendly aircraft carrier and failing, so on and so forth. It's just... ow. Wow. Ow. I mean, I was almost shaking by the time I was done with this match, just because of how it was going, how tight this match ended up being. Again, I really don't know how our Hakuryu was doing. I know he got more kills than I did, but I mean, when you actually get to the results screen at the end of the match, his overall performance was pitiful, at least by his experience earnings. So I don't know what was going on with him. I think he was trying to turn around and immediately redrop or whatever, and just not investing as much time as he needed to into making his attack runs actually succeed, like I learned that I needed to when I was doing the Ranger in the Langley, or the Saipan even. So yeah, that's one of the things that if I could go back and ask him, I probably would. But I mean, he's certainly also having to deal with a little bit more of an intense situation. He's got the battleships in close quarters, where I early on just said, oh, screw this, and I just backed up to the border of the map. So he is he has actually become the focus of the enemy ships, for one thing, mainly because he's closer. And as a result, I think he's just doing panic drops, panic runs. He's trying to get as much armament on target as quickly as possible as he can, without actually investing an incredible amount of time in his attack runs to actually ensure that he does reliable and efficient damage. So, meanwhile, I'm running around, I'm running in circles, and I'm actually making sure that my attack runs are properly invested, where they're accurate, they're doing substantial amounts of damage. And yeah, I mean, that's really, I think, about what it boils down to. And as you've noticed, I'm sure, one of the other things that I've been doing is I've been monitoring the health of my attack squadrons. If my attack squadrons start looking like they're getting too low, and I don't have enough time to actually put them into the attack run or to finish an attack, I will call them back and just get them the hell out of Dodge so that I have aircraft on deck that are replenishing instead of having to replace all of my aircraft. And that's one of the things that was not addressed by CC community contributors or testers, at least as far as I'm aware, because I don't know why. I mean, you can return the aircraft to the carrier if they're starting to take too much damage, and that basically heals them, restores them, whatever, but that was never addressed. They only focused on trying to carry out successive attacks, as many attacks as they could before all of their aircraft got shot down. Whereas I'm looking at right here, if I had not sunk the aircraft carrier right there, I probably might have just pulled my torpedo squadron back and let them replenish. Anyway, yeah, that, as I'm sure you can all agree, that was just a very, very hair-raising match, and I worked hard for all 165,000 damage that I did in that match. 141,000 credits earned, 2,100 experience points, 131 free experience points, 25 torpedo hits, 11 bomb hits, and 42 rocket hits. My practice paid off, to say the least. It really made the difference in this match. If I had gone in unpracticed, unaware of what I needed to do, I would not have even approached those numbers. I can guarantee that, hands down. As far as final results, 518 base experience points. The friendly Hakuryu, 333. So I did almost half again better than our Hakuryu. Again, I think he was just... I think he was in panic mode, and I think he was just trying to do as much damage as he could in a short window of time, and not pulling it off very well because of the new CV dynamics. Overall, though, definitely a very hair-raising match, and I came out as the sole survivor of the match. Ay, ay, ay. Talk about things being tight. Lots of damage spread around. The Z-52, by the way, my god, that thing's got AA now. Holy shit. Towards the start of the match, I'm sure all of you who were watching, that the first flak bursts that I flew through were not from battleship. Those were from the friggin' destroyer, the Z-52. So, yeah, Z-52, in regards to its flak, it's got AA now. There is no doubt about that. That actually caught me way off guard, and something that I'm going to not try toying around with in the future. All of that work, net income, just a little shy of 10,000 credits. Yeah. I think the CV economy, despite being based on battleships. Now, it might still need a little bit of tweaking. But beyond that, wow, just, oh my god, this match was, as I said, my gaming experience is not geared towards dealing with this kind of psychological trauma in the least. I don't even think I had this much psychological pressure going through starting off Elite Dangerous. Anyway, on that note, I suppose I will let you all go. Decide for yourselves what you think of this new shitstorm. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. Take care, and happy hunting.